I'm going to be doing 2 workshops coming up. One is called Healing and Walking, and one is called Doorways to the Divine. They are very similar in a certain way. They're like heads and tails of the same coin, really. Healing and Walking is specifically a workshop for practitioners to learn about the holding and the moving of the spirit of the client, or you could say the reorienting of the spirit of the client. First, towards healing, because the person can be oriented towards goodness knows what, caught in trauma, caught in any number of non-healing states, bitterness, distraction, denial, recrimination, blame. Like, there's so many non-healing states we can be caught in. So how does the practitioner help reorient the client towards healing? What does that look like? What does that feel like? Not mental theory about it, but actual coaching. It's not one-on-one, it's 1-on-6, because actually a small group is a more effective place to learn than one-on-one coaching. One-on-one coaching is very acontextual. And in order to actually find your superpowers and have an experience that gives you the assurance, oh, whoa, I've just found my superpowers. Look at the look on that other person's face. That's a really deep, that's a connection. It's actually better to have a small group so that you have plenty of individual attention, but in a group where we can actually do work together, see results, get feedback. So we're going to be working with not just theory about how do we reorient a client's heart towards healing, but the actual practice and embodiment of it together. We're also going to be looking at what does it mean and how do we help reorient a client beyond healing to what Sufis call walking, which is a state in which, as a side effect, a great deal of healing may take place. But when we're in that space, we're actually not thinking about healing. We are thinking about the rectification of that which stands between us and our journey home. However we conceive of that journey home, to the big heart, to the unity, to the one, to immersion in that love. One can read a whole lot about this. One can talk a whole lot about this. What excites me is being with other human beings, other practitioners who have these abilities inside of them, but it may not have been included in their training. So the parts are there. Everybody has these abilities. What's difficult is actually like, how do I find that muscle in myself? How do I find and know that I've found my heart and my spirit rather than my mind? And how do I know that I'm connecting with somebody else's spirit, not their mind? And assisting them, not dominating them, not lobbying them, not manipulating them, but assisting, which is a process of helping somebody find themselves and their options. So essentially what I am doing with the practitioner, just helping them find what's already there, but actually be able to find it and know what their options are, feel what their options, oh, I could reach out, and help them to do with the client what I'm doing with them. Though in this case, the client is going to be another classmate. So it's a very safe practice state to be able to, it sounds crazy, but sometimes it feels like you're literally putting your hands on someone's spirit and saying, I'm here. You're not alone with this. And look over there. I know you're looking over here, but look over there for a moment. What do you notice when you look over there? And be able to point them towards the unity, point them towards the big heart. You could say, point them towards God. Because, I'm using theistic language. Sometimes it's very convenient. There is a something, a great big something. Where's the phone booth where you can go and call it up and actually make the connection? Hello, I'd like to speak to the something, please. That's very important for a practitioner to be able to convey to a client, where is my heart? And then once I'm in my heart, where is the doorway to the big heart, or what in Chinese medicine is called the Macrocosmic Shen? I can be rattling around in here with all my emotions, but where's the door to help me turn and face that door and say, oh, the ruckus, that's the ruckus. I got other business here. I got a private interview I'm going to right now. And whatever I need to drop like a veil in order to be able to show up in front of that larger reality and have my heart cleaned by it, because that happens automatically. Our hearts are cleaned when they are brought into connection with that larger reality. There's a pattern of a certain amount of veiledness and encumberdness and distractedness needs to be attended to in order to make the proper latch. Like the baby, finding the breath, like here. And then the heart-to-heart resuscitation just happens. And a whole lot of other stuff gets cleaned up along the way. For a practitioner to be able to do that, and every practitioner has the inner equipment, was born with it, to be able to do that, it's helpful to have somebody to be a mentor, to be a guide, and to give moment by moment feedback. That's great. I think you could drop it a little bit deeper. See if you can let yourself just drop a little bit more and let your heart be held inside of your body, and then allow that, the essence of that, the fragrance of that, to waft over to the client's heart. Yeah, things like that, back and forth. And with feedback from a group. And yes, believe it or not, it is not just possible. It is in sometimes easier to do this over Zoom, because people have a greater uninhibitedness in some way when they're in their own home. They have a little bit more sense of being held and being on their own turf. They're not there in front of the practitioner in a strange office. So in some ways, it can be actually very beneficial. And I've been doing what I do for more than 30 years now. I've been doing this for more than 30 years. Think how boring that gets. If I don't have the opportunity to be with other practitioners at whatever level of their development they are, that's actually not the important part. What's important for me is to be in the presence of another practitioner and their essence and their God-given or Tao-given talents and capacities, because I'm here, I'm in this to learn too. I'm in it for the awe of discovering someone else's superpowers as they come into them, somebody's depth and mastery. It's absolutely beautiful. So that's healing and walking. And I invite you to join us. It's just a few slots. So if you're going to do it, make the decisions very soon. Now, that's for practitioners. However, if you've been listening to me say this and you've been feeling like, I want to do that, but I want to be the client. That's what Doorways to the Divine is all about. Doorways to the Divine is not about learning anything. It's not about doing anything. It's not about developing skills. It's about showing up, being held, being reoriented in the direction of healing. Come home from wherever you are. We like little boy blue is blowing the horn, you know, like come on, let's come back and reorient towards healing and reorient beyond that as well to the moment of your death, basically, but right now. The actual practices and methodology will include a great deal of Sufi healing, including a great deal of chanting, singing, reading, traditional Sufi healing. And the Sufis say, die before you die. What they really mean is an opening up of that space and that orientation of the heart, not towards the world and the senses, but towards that doorway where the heart goes to meet the big thing. And if it wishes, starts taking a few steps closer to that light, which there's no words for what happens when we do that. Even if we take just a few steps towards that light, it changes us very deeply in a way that we cannot often name at first. Sufis say veils burn away. False ideas burn away. Old adhesions to identities and pain complexes that seemed incredibly important and life-defining. As we stand in front of that light, dying before we die, it's like, okay, if I'm done with my life and I'm just coming home now, how much of this bullshit luggage am I going to take with me? The time that this happened and the time that that happened and how it still feels like a knife in my gut? Or am I going to say, you know what, on second thought, I do not care about that. I care about filling every single cell of my body with the love that made me and that I just want to come back to as quickly as possible. Except that it isn't actually, inshallah, the moment of your death. It's the moment of your returning. Sufis call it fana, the disappearance, the surrender into. And we'll stay there a little bit in that place where dust motes are moving in light. And then there comes this other moment. It's like, that's when we're inhaled into the divine. And then at a certain point, when it's ready, when we've had our fill, when we've really drunk very, very deeply, there's a natural moment, like the moment when the baby is done nursing, where it naturally lets go and turns, and perhaps it takes a nap, or perhaps it gets interested in something else, but it comes back to, oh, okay. And now how shall I live my life? Different. Often after a Doorways to the Divine workshop, it takes a few days to figure out, how am I different? What actually happened? And then you start noticing, oh, I'm with my boss differently. I'm with my daughter differently. My artwork, my painting, it's different. So it unfolds over time. That's the Doorways to the Divine workshop. So you can see how it's like the flip side of the healing and walking. One is more for the practitioner and the other is more for anybody. I mean, practitioners can come to that too. Just don't come expecting to act like a practitioner. Come expecting to just receive, to drink and drink and drink and drink and drink until the milk runs down your face. You're just like, okay. Okay. That's healing and walking and doorways to the divine.